Like on Mission 3, JJ's first unit, Vic Armstrong did all the giant action stuff. Vic would go in, he would do all the giant stunts and stuff. And then the second unit I directed, I was kind of the cleanup guy. So anything the first unit didn't get, the action unit didn't get, like there was a car chase on the East Coast, I had to go shoot on a bridge. So I went and did the East Coast stuff. And then I would come back to stage, and any inserts or stunts that had gotten left over, I was the cleanup second unit director for that.
Welcome to Season 2 and the first episode of The Practical Filmmaker, an educational podcast brought to you by the Filmmaker Institute and Sunscreen Film Festival, where industry professionals talk nuts and bolts and the steps they took to find their success today. On today's show, producer-director Arthur Anderson takes us into second unit directing for action sequences, action writing, and favorite tools of his trade. Find full transcripts and more at thepracticalfilmmaker.com. I'm your host, Tanya Musgrave, and today we have Arthur Anderson, industry multitasker, producer, director, AD in the DGA, and action writer with involvement in films such as Windtalkers, MI2 and 3, and television's Pretty Little Liars. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you, Tanya?
I'm doing great. So how did you get here? Like what steps did you take to end up being part of so many great projects?
Well, I started off back in Charleston, South Carolina. And when I was in college, the guy who lived next to me worked at a radio station, and he used to do commercials for nightclubs. He says, hey, they want to do some comedy spots. I know you do stand-up comedy. Would you be interested? So we started doing comedy spots, and ad agencies started coming to us. Hey, can you do it for us? Hey, can you do TV commercials? We knew nothing about commercials, so we learned the hard way. We did that. Then my senior year, unfortunately, he was killed in an auto accident.
Oh, no.
And by the providence of God, my mother called me and said, hey, there's a film coming to our hometown here. I always know you wanted to do film. So I called them. I cast a bunch of my actors in the film. The second week that the film was going, both ADs got sick, and they go, who knows how to run a set? And I raised my hand. So my second week in the business, I was running a film set.
Get
And the
out.
assistant director on that film took me to New York, and I worked on the Brinks Job, Willie and Phil. So I got to work with some really top ADs and directors. And then I came out to LA on John Travolta's film, Urban Cowboy. I was a PA all this time. So I came out, I got my days in quickly. I got into the Directors Guild, second AD, worked my way up to second AD, first AD. The Lassie TV series I brought back in the late 80s, early 90s. I ended up writing and directing on that series. I would always get the episodes where we need to save money, you need to do this fast. And I knew how to do it fast and quick. Did that. And then I hooked up with John Woo in 96 on Face Off, did Face Off, then did Mission Impossible 2 with him. I did the uncredited rewrite on that, and I was his AD on that. Then we did Windtalkers because I was doing the uncredited rewrites. I produced on that, uncredited rewrite, AD'd. Then Paycheck, same deal with that. And then in between that, I worked with other directors like, JJ Abrams on Mission Impossible 3. I co-produced that and directed the East Coast second unit on that. So I've been very fortunate that I've worked with really good people that I've learned from, that have helped me along. And that's what this business is all about. It's all about the people the people who help you up the ladder,
Yeah, absolutely. What do you remember about that first set where you realized that maybe you had made it to the big leagues, like on Face Off or Mission Impossible?
I don't know if you call it making it the big league. They're all they're really hard work. Action pictures are, there's a lot of elements, a lot of planning that goes into them. And, you're always surprised when you finished and everything went well. And then you actually go get to sit in the theater and watch it and go, wow, how did we do that? Because there's so many elements had to get, there's so much stuff you shot that gets left on the editing room floor. And, there's crises that happen every day. And, so that's when you appreciate it. When you finally sit in a theater and you're able to watch and enjoy the movie, you go, wow, that was really hard work, but this is really a good movie.
So that's kind of when you realized it was just like actually sitting in the theater and watching.
Right.
It was like, oh, okay.
That's when it kind of hits you. This is real. There's a lot of movies that get shot that never get screened,
Yeah. Because I was talking to a buddy the other day, up and coming indie, more of a director kind of thing, where for the first time he was looking at a distribution option. And he's just like, how did I get here? How was it that I got here? And I'm reading this contract because this is something that we've literally only dreamed of. And I'm just like, man, what is it for the people who what is it? Like, what are they thinking on that? Like the first day that they're on set, they're like, oh my word, that's John Woo over there? Or is it just like, oh yeah, that's done? I don't know. I've always been curious about like if there was ever a kind of moment where you felt like, oh, this is where I've arrived on a different level.
I was always so busy working. I really never sat back to think to think about that. There's so much to do.
Yeah.
And listen, it's really about, particularly for people starting off, it's all about your intention. You have
Of
to
course.
have a vision of what you want to end up doing,
Mm,
right? So if you want to be a producer, a writer, director,
mm,
so if you want to be a writer, you try to get into to be a PA for writers, like on a TV series or writers room. So it's all
yeah.
about making your connections. If you want to be a director, there's a number of ways to do that. You go out and the great thing now with the 4K cameras and stuff, you can shoot your own short films. Doesn't cost you a lot of money.
4K
You get them into
phones.
you. Yeah, you get them into film festivals, and that's how
Yeah.
you get notoriety. And then behind that, you want to have something you've written or you've partnered with somebody who has a project that you can then go when it gets notoriety. You can go to a studio and you can pitch a project.
Hmm.
So it's patience and persistence. You have to be persistent because, listen, I mean, my career hasn't been all just going from one project. Yeah, there's been long periods of time where you don't work. The actors go on strike, the writers go on strike. You're still having to make mortgage payments. The bills are still coming in. So, what I also encourage people starting in the business is have a second stream of income. So
Hmm.
this isn't just your only form of income.
Yeah.
I mean, and the
Yeah.
great thing about YouTube now, all of us have some special talent, right? So
Hmm.
anytime now I need to know something about how to do anything, I go to YouTube. Somebody's done it, right?
Hmm.
And they've monetized that channel. And there's people, I mean, who are just doing like a homestead channel. Here's what we do in the homestead, and they're making 5 grand a day because they've
Hmm.
got 250,000 viewers. So
Hmm.
everybody has a skill set and a talent outside of filmmaking. So particularly when you're initially starting out, look at having an alternative source of income because you finish a 9 month show, there might be 3 months where you're not going to work unless you've been saved up money and stuff.
Hmm.
You've got to still pay bills for three
Hmm.
months
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
if you've got other skill sets you can do, you can write books on Amazon for free. So if you're an expert on anything, you can write a book for free. You can publish it as an ebook, get it
Hmm.
printed out. I
Yeah.
taught my daughter how to do that years ago, and she blew it up into a whole business. So
Wow.
so have your intention of what you want to do in the business. I want to be a writer, producer, director, and sometimes those goals change as you go on.
Hmm.
But it's really about the people who help you up. So I had people who, Terry Donnelly was the assistant director who first took me up to work on the Brinks job with Billy Friedkin, worked with Paul Mazursky and William Phil, and that's how I got contacts for other jobs. But you also have to be good at what you do.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many people like on television shows and writers' rooms who start off as just the PA, right? They might have been to college as a writer, gone through the writing courses. They might not have, but they learn from skilled writers. And then they take that and they learn that, and then they give them a shot. A lot of times they'd be, okay, you're going to co-write with this writer, right? You co-write. All right,
Mhm.
next, now here's your shot. You're going to write an episode. Then they
Yeah.
get an agent and they go. So it's really about, being there, being good at what you do, being helpful and
Hmm.
learning, taking instruction and then capitalizing on that.
Yeah, yeah. In doing these podcasts, everyone, writers, directors, ADs, producer, they all seem to have very much a specific lane. So 1 hour
Mhm.
television drama, feature film, three camera. And I noticed that you kind of made this transition from
Mhm.
feature films to television.
Right.
Talk to me about that pivot point for you.
I wanted to direct, right? So it's really hard to get a studio to give you a shot at directing, 25 million, 50 million, even a $10 million feature.
Yeah, okay.
So I knew my best shot at that was to go into television
Mm,
and to do episodic. And
mm,
then second unit direct, I did second unit directing on episodic because I'm an action background directing,
mhm,
second unit directing. And then episodes, then they give me a shot to direct. And because I knew the show and I know how to direct and I'm good at it, I could always get the episode. I could get it done under schedule, and I would usually come near the end of the series so that because in the finale you're always going to have a big ending. Well,
mhm.
with my skill set, I knew how to get it done under schedule, usually every day, and it would
Mm.
save up money for the end, and that was fine by me.
Nice.
I also became a supervising director. Warner Horizon has a great program for diversity candidates to come through. and Bethany Rooney teaches that. And so they take the people, they take them through all the aspects. They give them scenes, they have to block it, they have to direct it, and then after they've gone through, I think it's like an 8-week course, then they put them on a series. So
Mm.
they came on a series I was working on, and then I would take them through prep, shooting, and post,
Hmm.
right? And
Mhm.
Bethany does a great job. I mean, she's written a book on directing. It's really excellent. I recommend everybody read. Bethany takes her time and she's teaching people how to come up through the ranks. And then
Mhm.
they'd turn over to me on the set and I would be in prep with them. And it's great because to take somebody and just throw them into an episodic directing environment with no background is like taking somebody and throwing them in a Cuisinart. I mean, it's a machine. You've got a
Yeah.
schedule, you've got to
Yeah.
go. You've got actors who are trained in the series. They want to come in, get their work done, do a good job, and go home.
Mhm.
And it's a lot of pressure. So Warner Horizon's done a great job in just setting up that system and training diversity candidates to come through, so they can then go out on other episodic series and they can be successful.
Mm.
And they've gone through this program. And they've gone on. They get booked all the time on shows.
Tell me more about being an action writer. Like, what is that exactly? And is it part of a writer's room, or is it like at a certain part of the writing process?
The action writer is mainly built with John Woo.
Okay.
So what happens is in John's pictures, the action is a character in the movie. It's the unseen character,
Yeah.
right? So we'll take a script, we'll tear all the action out of it, and then we'll sit down and go through and design, okay, we're going to do a car chase. We're going to do a car chase like, nobody's ever seen before. Like in Mission Impossible 2, it's Tom and Thandi on the mountain road and the car. It's love making with the cars going around,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we tear it apart and then we determine, okay, what's the meaning of this act? 'Cause it's not just, I mean, you've seen a lot of movies where it's just action for action's sake. It's just blowing stuff up. Well, that's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
John's a storyteller. So he says, okay, we're going to tell a love story with these cars,
Mm.
And so then you write that action in there. So then over the arc of the film, the characters you're going to use action as a barrier to stop them. You're going to use it to make a transformational arc for their character. So they have some Achilles heel that they're afraid to get into some type of situation, afraid to act, and the action forces their character to change. You've got to make a decision. You've got to act, right?
Interesting.
And so that's the part of their transformational arc that changes their character over the course of the film.
Wow.
So when we go through, I break it down on a big board. I use Chris Sauce method where I break the script down into 8 segments because it's more manageable. I'm thinking, oh, Act 1's 30 pages. Act 2 is the 60-page desert of all we got to fill in. And then there's
Yes.
Act 3. Oh, well, we know what
Yeah.
we'll do at the end of that.
Yeah.
So I break it up into 8 sections, and then I go through the story points and the characters, and then I track their arcs of what's going on. And here's a good place for some action because they'll help them change, right? This will stop them. This will create a barrier, right?
Yeah.
And so it's more manageable to me when you can put it in 8 equal chunks of action. And writing is like directing, and because the thing about directing, you go from scene to scene, you want to link those scenes together, right? You want it to seamlessly transition. Like when I was directing episodic TV, I would sit down, I'd go through the script, I would shot list the whole script, and then I would sit down with the writer, and I just want to make sure that their intention is that I was going to execute. So I'd sit down, I'd go through the intent of what I was going to do in those scenes, and then if they say, oh, well, here's what I really mean, I would change that scene. So working with John, we do the same thing. I said, what's the intent of this scene? What are the characters doing? Is there something we can do to improve the story, to move it forward? Because here's the secret to any storytelling. If you're sitting around a campfire telling a story, secret storytelling is tension, right? So it's hope versus fear. You hope the best thing's going to happen for the character. They're going to overcome these obstacles, but you fear that the obstacles are going to come over like a shark and eat the person and take them away, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So over the course of a film or episodic television, you're building that hope versus fear. You're keeping tension, right? Until the very end when you resolve it and everybody goes, whoo, man. And you have your little resolution scene there where everybody comes up and high fives. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
But that's it. You want to keep tension. If you're watching a movie and all of a sudden you're focused, or your TV show, you start looking at your phone and stuff, they've lost you because they didn't keep the tension moving. They didn't move scene to scene. And those links between the scenes are so important to keep that momentum going. As a director, you're moving the person through the story. You're directing to their attention as what is, as opposed to a stage play where the actor's action is directing your attention on the stage, right? You're directing the audience's attention on where they need to go and what they need to focus on.
Wow.
Listen, the blueprint, the script is the biggest thing to start with, because I don't know how good a director you is. You go on an episodic television, you get a bad script, you're going to be blamed for it. Okay. They're going to say, oh, wow. You read the script, you go, oh my God, this is terrible. They're going to go, when it's all over and it screens, oh, this is terrible. I tell you, that was the wrong director for that episode.
No.
Directing episodic television is like, they give you a really expensive Rolls Royce, and then they put you on a NASCAR racetrack and they say, don't dent our car. Okay. Don't dent it. I was like, wait a minute. The nature of this game is the bump and grind. So they push other people out of the way. So
That's amazing.
it's a challenge, you know. But that's a great thing about it is no 2 days are ever alike in this business. I don't care what you're doing. If if you're doing a directed web series, television, AD big movies and stuff, that's a great thing about this business. Every day is different, and you're going to face a challenge. And you can't let it overcome it. You always have to keep a positive focus, right?
Yeah.
And you have to wake up in the morning, and this applies to life too. You got to wake up with an intention of what your day is going to be like. Because if you don't, you're going to get steamrolled by somebody else's pile of garbage. It's gonna, you have to look at that and go, okay, I recognize that, and what I'm going to do about it. Okay, how are we going to fix that? Okay, great.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing that you have a fix it attitude, because of the roles that you are in. You are literally the on-set fixer. So
yeah, sometimes I have to switch my hats around from producer to AD and slap myself for doing it. What were you thinking when you brought up that idea? It's going to cost so much money. I said, yeah, but it's going to be really cool.
But I mean, that's really cool though, being able to be involved with so many different aspects of a certain thing. Like, for instance, being able to action write and then actually have a handle in how that is executed and accomplished. You were a second unit director then on MI3 and Star Trek. And so for second unit directing, I get the impression that it can be anywhere from like getting pickups to like shooting all of the action sequences or like specialty type shots.
Like on Mission 3, Vic Armstrong, he was the director of the action unit, right? So JJ was first unit. Vic Armstrong did all the giant action stuff, so he would go in and like the bridge sequence or stuff blow up. Vic would go in, he would do all the giant stunts and stuff. And then we would come back and take the actors and do the same action with them, but just insert them in the big sequences that had already been shot.
Yeah.
And then the second unit I directed, I was kind of the cleanup guy. So anything the first unit didn't get, the action unit didn't get, like there was a car chase on the East Coast, I had to go shoot on a bridge. So I went and did the East Coast stuff, and then I would come back to stage, and any inserts or stunts that had gotten left over, I was the cleanup second unit director for that.
So like with the actors, like when you say like on the bridge, is it like, okay, we need a shot like tracking around from like back to front, or like that kind of thing? Or what?
When I'm doing second unit, it's all stunt guys and extras.
Okay.
So it's the big wide shots of like one of them was the caravan going in, with the armored car, it goes into the bridge. I'm doing the helicopter shot of that whole thing going on. And then in Virginia, I don't know if you're familiar in Richmond where the railroad bridge is. There was Tom's got this car and he's going through all the traffic. He goes underneath the bridge, has a near miss of the truck. Gotcha. So I did all the second unit with that part. And then first unit did the part where he was actually in the car driving and swerving in the close-ups and things like that. On a lot of pictures, it's just because you have a release date, and particularly like on Mission 3, they wanted to be done by Christmas. I came in and said, done 2. There was a lot of elements had to go on because we're in 3 different countries. We're in the U.S., we're in China, we're in Italy. And so there was a visual plates unit that had to go to China to shoot the plates for the Bank of China. And it was huge, so I had all this on a spreadsheet, and there were units all over the place. And to get that done within 100 days, that's where you send units out to do stuff in advance. So the actors come in for small segments, and we got done it. And I tell you, it was one of the few movies I've ever done. We came in like $1 million under budget, and the studio was so happy. But JJ's a great director. He knows what he wants. He prevised all those sequences so then we could chop them up. It all starts with the director.
Yeah.
And he had
Yeah.
a vision. He previs all that, so we could chop up. Okay, this is going to be a plates unit. This is going to Vic's going to do this.
Hmm.
Then JJ will come. He'll do this, and he's just a master at that because he's the ultimate multitasker. So I'd be
Yeah.
over on a stage doing some insert or something I'd bring over, and I'd show him the playback of what I'd do, and we just had a great team, and we went fast,
Yeah.
And but we did a great story, and that's what makes it fun when you all know you've got a big job to do, and you just all pitch in, and nobody complains. It's just go, okay, well, how are we going to do this? Here we go. Let's go.
This is actually one of the listener questions on the subject.
Mhm.
So like directors, like they have to have very specific visions, obviously. So like how much creative leeway do you actually get? Like I suppose it depends on like who the director is, but when you're in this role, how much do you engage with the director like before you're able to go off on your own?
Films are the director's medium, and television are the writer's medium. You know, I
Mm.
mean, when you come in as an episodic director, unless you come as a producer or director on the show, you're coming in and you're taking over somebody else's vision and arc of that series. So you need to stay within the bounds of how they've set up the characters, the style that they shoot the show, and the DP is really important in that because he knows how the show is shot, and he helps directors who come in and don't know that much about the show to keep that
Mm.
vision. A feature it's a director-driven medium. It's his vision of what the picture is.
Mm.
And I'll just say the great thing about JJ is he came from a television background, writing, directing, right? So he knew he had a giant project to do.
Yeah.
Done so much television that he could just pull it together like that, and that's why the picture came together. It had such a good focus. And you notice that picture has tension all the way through it, right?
Mm.
He
Mm.
kept that tension balance going the whole way because so you start at the ending, you don't know what's going on, you resolve it at the end. So you go, wow, oh, so that was it. It was the other person, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But they kept that tension going the whole way.
Mm.
So that's a case where a writer director came from television, and it really served him well because you got to be a good storyteller, and you have to have the vision, know how to execute that vision when you get on the set. He was really great at that because all that television training he got translated easily for him into
Mhm.
features.
Your talent would be specifically using like within your own creativity,
Mhm.
being able to capture those shots that he had, capture the director's vision as well,
Yeah,
right?
well, it's really
Yeah.
easy when the directors previs the episode.
Hmm.
I mean, it's like watching a cartoon. I mean, and now the previses are so good,
Yeah.
so you know exactly what he wants.
Hmm.
So you're just taking that section of the previs that doesn't involve the actors,
Hmm.
and
Executing.
taking that and executing it. And Vic Armstrong, he's been doing this for a long time, and
Yeah.
he's one of the top second unit directors ever. So many elements going on, cars, I mean, stunts. You got people 80 feet on descender rigs coming off of rigs and things, explosions blowing up. And Vic, he's the master at that.
Wow.
It's a
Wow.
lot of hard work.
I cannot imagine a set that huge where you have so many units that have to meld into one. And like, I mean, that's actually kind of exciting to me because I love collaboration, but
Mhm.
like having it to fit all under one, but yeah,
Well,
the
and keep
previs would
everybody
have to be
safe because that's the other
yeah,
thing with John. He doesn't like to do a lot of visual effects. He likes everything to be live action.
which is very cool.
Like on Windtalkers, our first day of photography, it was in the Big K Valley in Oahu, and it was a 2.5 mile long helicopter shot with 500 Marines attacking 250 Japanese up on a hill.
Oh my
So there are 280 bombs going off. We had cannon fire. Everybody had rifles and machine guns firing. And that's, we had 300 crew members, 65 40-foot trucks. We had to create a model 30 feet long and 15 feet wide. Just in the morning, we could get everybody around so everybody would know where, we have 14 cameras. Helicopter, where's everybody going to be? And here's the toy helicopter on the stick. Here's where it's going to come, just so everybody could get an
Yeah.
overview of what was going on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a massive undertaking, but you hire the best people at all their crafts, and then you
Mhm.
trust them to do their job. But I'm telling you, when you're standing up on a hilltop and you've got these big Zeiss binoculars, and you're looking over the battlefield, and you're praying that all this is going to go off and everybody's going to be safe.
Safe. Yeah.
It's a big responsibility because that's the first assistant director is responsible for safety.
Yeah.
And if I always tell everybody, if you see something wrong, we'll stop what we're doing because nobody's life is worth getting injured.
Mhm.
We're telling stories. We're not curing cancer. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We always post up in our stories who our next guest is, and we ask them if they have any listener questions. So we have a few here.
Mhm.
This one is I'm not a filmmaker, but I'm really interested in war movies. How would you
Mm.
describe the tension behind the camera of these kinds of dramatic productions as opposed to in front of it in those situations?
Listen, 90% of the tension you want to happen is in pre-production, right? You want to have a plan for how this is going to happen because number one, it's a period film, it's period wardrobe. A lot of times you're recreating something that happened in history. You want to be authentic to that. You're going to have to find stuntmen, extras, actors. You're going to have to put actors through, if they've never been in the military, put them through a military training shoot. How do you shoot a rifle? Okay. How do you go out on a combat patrol? How do you set up an L-shaped ambush? How do you assault a machine gun nest? So you have to put them through a boot camp and train them for this. So it's a lot of preparatory work. Then you go up, you have to set up the battlefields. That's what we do, models, right? And we storyboard. These action sequences. Here's what we want to happen, okay? And here's what's going to be second unit, first unit. So once you get on the set, you're hoping that 90% of your plan has evolved into a actionable plan of what you're going to do. And the other 10% is improvisation because ultimately any set you get to, the script is a blueprint, right? You're going to rehearse with the actors. You usually do a table read beforehand. So if there's any script problems, you can work that out. But then when you get there and you say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? So that leaves you, since you've done 90% of your preparation, that leaves you the flexibility to go, hey, well, let's change this a little bit. Well, let's do a crane shot over here. We'll come over here. We can still make the time on the schedule, but it's going to look so much better. So when you get the director, the stunt coordinator, the actors, you start going through this sequence, this is going to be a cooler shot. And then you get the camera operators get involved. You've got 4 cameras and you just tell D camera, hey, here's a sequence. We'll go find a cool shot, right? So he'll be on a 180 millimeter lens. Oh, this is great. And then, so when you get in the editing room, you have options for stuff you haven't even storyboarded. You're depending on an operator's creativity. Of course, you've got all the monitors. You can see what's going on. And a lot of times you'll look and see, wow, that was good. All right, let's back up. Now let's shoot it from this angle. So it's a lot of hard work once you get on the set because you get, these people are coming in early. It's taking 2 hours to get them just in wardrobe. Then they got to go to the armor. They got to get armed. Then they have to get ammo. They got to get on the battlefield. Everybody's got to get in position. And then, you have to go around in a truck with speakers or do safety meetings because there's so many people involved so they can hear you all. So to the director, the crew or his paintbrushes, the cast or his paint, and he's painting on a moving canvas, right? It's going to be one of the hardest things in the world. But hopefully you've done 90% of your work up front in preparation so that when you get on the set, there's not a lot of tension. Oh, how are we going to do this? Because you've already talked about this. You've walked the battlefield with this. And a lot of times what we would do with John is on the weekends, we'd take the stunt guys, like we're doing Paycheck. We had this whole sequence in the bio lab where guys are getting blown up and all over this. And so we'd go into the bio lab over the weekend and we would shoot video with the stunt doubles going through. We'd shoot it from different angles. And then the stunt coordinator he would edit that together or I would edit it together. And then we would look at it and say, okay, this is good. We need to change this here. And then John would say, no, let's do this. So when we got there on the day, we weren't going, wow, we got this mechanical arm that takes a gun out of his hand. It gives them to him. We'd already figured all that out. So the actors they would watch the stunt doubles do it. It'd take the gun from you, give it to him. The gun comes back. You hit him in the head with it. And so literally the actor, you could show them the videotape too. Who'd show them the whole sequence. Wow, this is so cool. So then you would show that you would shoot those little segments, show them how to do it. And so your time is minimal for sitting there trying to you got to figure all in action sequences. You got to figure all that stuff out in advance or you're just going to grind into, 16-hour days. And
Yeah.
And now wearing masks, you're not going to do that. So,
oh my stars. Yeah, no. That quote that you said about like the paintbrushes, that actually is integrated into one of our other listener questions, where, like that your favorite part of your job is managing those paintbrushes of the artist. So how does your philosophy of life impact your art in film and the use of those tools at your disposal? Like how you diffuse the situation?
That's a great question because there's 2 management philosophies in this business. Okay. One is to yell and scream at people so they're afraid of making a mistake. So they'll give 100% all the time. Oh, what I'm gonna, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to get yelled at for this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Then the second philosophy is to encourage people to bring forth their creativity, its highest potential, and contribute to the project. So you're all working together as a team, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So I'm a man of faith. I'm a believer, and I always believe treat other people like you want to be treated.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
listen, I have bad days too. And,
Yeah.
you know, and bad things happen. You know, you get out of sorts and stuff. But in general, I like to treat people like I like to be treated. You know, not to say that if somebody's not doing their job, you know, I'm going to tell them they're not doing their job because listen, it could affect the safety of other people. It's
Absolutely.
affecting what we're trying to do on the set.
Yeah.
But so I'm not a yeller and screamer, and the directors I choose to work with, you know, aren't either. They're collaborative filmmakers.
Mhm.
And listen, I've worked with people who are the first generation, you know, for the first iteration of, you know, yelling and screaming and stuff.
Mm.
And I just made a decision after that point, you know, life's too short to work with people like that, and I just won't work with them again. So I become suddenly unavailable. So that's my philosophy. Treat people like you want to be treated. Listen, everybody wants to show up. They want to make a good film. They want to contribute to the film, but then they want to go home at night, you know, and have time with their family. And the hardest thing about this business is, you know, particularly on giant features and stuff, you're working long hours. A lot of times you're on location away from your family, and your family comes out to visit. And, you know, and my wife could testify on Mission Impossible 2. They came out for 3 weeks, and I probably saw them for, you know, I was working 7 days a week. It's very tough, you know. So, you know, God bless. I just celebrated my 39th wedding anniversary.
Oh,
She
congratulations.
deserves a medal for putting up with me for 39 years. Because listen, sometimes I can be a real donkey, you know. So, uh, but I married better than I deserve, so God was looking out for me.
Well, okay, so like you're in Idaho now.
Yeah,
But okay, because like everybody is always just like, oh yeah, well, you have to be like near a big city. I mean, if you're in Idaho, at least you're in Boise, right? No, like
no,
you
I'm
are.
in northern Idaho, but it really snows.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you've obviously found that balance
Yeah,
of just kind of like life and work and, like that kind of thing. In that respect, like if the old you could see you now, like what would the old you say?
I'd have moved up here a long time ago. Hey, listen, in my work now, a lot of my work's international. It's all over the country.
Yeah.
So I'm just at a position now where if I work back in LA, you know, I've got a motorhome and a tow behind car. You know, I've got place down there to stay, or if I'm just going for a short period of time, I can do an extended stay or something.
Nice.
It's just there was a series of things like I had an attempted home invasion robbery, fire
Oh,
tried to burn my house, and within 3 months from one side and then the other, and you know, confrontation with people trying to steal my mail. And we just made a decision. So, you know, I'm not going to live like this anymore. And we lived
yeah.
in a really good neighborhood too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we just made the decision. We had this place up here for quite some time. I said, you know, I got my motorhome, I got my tow behind car. I can work anywhere. So we moved
Yeah.
up here. And man, I tell you what a difference it's made. There's so many things to do up here. There's snow skiing. You know, my lake is frozen. There's guys out there ice fishing, ice skating. There's
Mhm.
always something to do up here, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I
and
know.
yeah,
And I love
so
it.
I just made a decision that, you know, when I have to work in town, I drive my motorhome down, or I've got a, you know, place to
Mhm.
stay down there. And we just decided it was really worth the move to
Mm.
do that. You're working long hours, you get exhausted, and sometimes you just need to get out of that environment and go someplace else. It's like, you know, rural America, and just hang out with, you know, in that environment.
I always give props to the people who have been able to find balance in their life because it's a crazy business. I mean, it's crazy life. It's just kind of one of those things. I mean, people who aren't in this business, having that kind of, work life balance. I give major props to the people who have
Well, you
um,
know, and you and your
been able to
mate
figure that out.
have to be on the same page with that too, understanding, you
Mm.
know, and if you want a normal life, 9 to 5, you know, become a novel writer, because this business you're not going to find that. You're going to work
Yeah.
long hours. It's going to be stressful in your relationship. You're going to have kids, and the kids are going to get sick. It's, you
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
hard. So it's a sacrifice. It's hard on both of you.
So, what current project are you excited about?
There's we're doing with John, that's in development. He's doing a remake of one of his Hong Kong classics. I
Oh,
can't give out any information
no,
on that,
no worries.
but it's
Ooh.
awesome. I mean, you know, we've done some scouting overseas and stuff for it. It's really going to be a great film. I'm really looking forward to that. There's another television project I'm up for that I may do before that
Uh,
in LA. So There's a lot of things in the offing here. Now, John actually has 2 projects in development, so he's pretty busy.
So how do people find you or follow your work? Time for your shameless plugs.
2 ways. Of course, you can find find me on IMDb. I have a website that deals with spiritual issues called myprayerwarrior.com.
Nice.
If they need to reach out to me on email, I'm on warforsouls@gmail.com.
warforsouls@gmail. All right. We
Right.
are going to put all of those in the show notes. And the last question that I ask every single guest, what questions should I have asked you? What did I miss?
I think you covered pretty much the whole broad spectrum of it. I mean, I think we hit everything out there. The one thing I would say to people is every morning you wake up, have an intention about what you want to accomplish in your life, and don't let the bad things, particularly with this COVID, a lot of the people that I talk to that I help are, dealing with a lot of depression and stuff. Listen, we're not powerless in this situation. We have a mind that 40% of the front of our mind is our creative entity, right? What's happening tries to put you in the back hind reptilian brain about survival and fear. We're not made to operate that way. We're made to operate out of our front creative mind. We are manifestors, right? So every morning when you get up, you make an intention for what you want to accomplish to that day and what your goal is for the long term, right? And you'll be surprised how things will come to you that will help you achieve that. And when bad things start happening to you, acknowledge them, but don't let them get inside you, right? You've got to keep your intention, your focus strong on what you want every day. You have to make your day before you get out of bed every morning.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time that you've spent with us.
Hey, listen, I'm always glad to hear the new generation coming up. I'm in the 3rd act of my life, so I'm looking forward to those new creators who are in the 1st act or coming along, right? Remember, keep that tension going, guys.
Man, thank you so much.
Thanks, Tony. It was great to meet you. And good luck to all you guys out there starting your careers.
If you enjoyed this interview, follow us right here and check out more episodes at thepracticalfilmmaker.com. If you have comments or know someone who would be a great guest on our show, send in your suggestions to Tanya@thepracticalfilmmaker.com. Thanks for joining us. Be well and God bless. We'll see you next time on The Practical Filmmaker.